If you're just joining us, please introduce yourself in the chat, and we're going to get started right now. So, welcome everyone to our Bayou Culture Gathering for this February 2026. We're very excited that you are here with us. We'd like to introduce to you our management team for this program. There's myself, I'm the executive director for the South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery Center. We also have Dr. Rachel Doherty, who's with the Center for Louisiana Studies at ULL and the Louisiana Folklore Society. There's also Maria Zarang, who's with the Louisiana Folklife Program through the Louisiana Division of the Arts. Of course, Dr. Gary LaFleur, who's over at the Center for Bayou Studies over at Nicholls State University, and the staff of the BCC, Maida Owens, who is our senior program consultant, and Dr. Shauna Walton, who is our project coordinator. Um, this slide is put in here to sort of share with you all why we feel these BCC gatherings are so important and why it's important to include culture in planning. I use this picture here. This is a photo from this past year's Rougarou Fest, and there are members of the Cajun Music Preservation Society. To share with you one thing that I learned last night in a program that we did, the Louisiana Lit program, where we had an author speaking about the French language and coastal land loss and the ties with that. And one of the things she mentioned was the word was oral, Aural, I believe that's how you spell it. And it was about a sense of place. Sense of place often is associated with things that you can see and the place around you. But this in particular was about the sounds that you hear that make you feel connected to a certain place. And I hadn't really thought about that so much. And so that went with the music that we hear, like the Cajun Music Preservation Society produces. It's also the language. It's walking in a grocery store and hearing someone speak Louisiana French and that feeling that it gives you that you know the place that you are in because you hear those things. Going down to Cocodrie and hearing those seagulls and knowing the place that you're in. So all of that to say, when we talk about culture as a source of social cohesion, people with strong ties to culture report higher life satisfaction, all those things. It's all tied into these feelings. It's really hard sometimes maybe to define those things because it's such a big part of who we are and how we are. But I just wanted to share that with you that sound is something that we can also pay attention to, and language is a big part of those sounds that are around us that are so important. We'd like to thank our funders that enable us to do this program, the National Endowment for the Arts, the M.J. Sindler Family Fund for Culture and Media, Louisiana Office of Cultural Development through the Division of the Arts, and the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. I'd now like to pass this on over to Maida, who can present the artist spotlight for this month.
Maria Zarang sent me this information about Polize Pumis. She is a Laotian artist, and she facilitated a workshop focusing on their tradition of Pa Kwan. These are rituals and blessings that dominate the Laotian community, performed around weddings, the birth of a child, times of illness, funerals, or before a major trip. And at the center of these ceremonies is a pakwan, which is an ornate arrangement consisting of different materials, including banana leaves, flowers, flower buds, and blessed cotton strings. And Palize Pumis is the artist. She's going to be doing one more workshop on March 21st at the Buddhist temple in Broussard.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Thank you so much, mate. I appreciate you sharing that with us. It's a beautiful, beautiful work there. So for today's agenda, we will have our speaker for today, Miss Ashlee Wilson, will present. We'll have some time for some questions with her. We will ask her the question that that is our theme for this year about reclaiming the human connection. We'll have some working group updates. We'll open it up to any announcements that the group might have. And then we hope that everybody will stick around until 1:30. We'll have our informal discussion between 1 and 1:30. So I am very proud and excited to introduce to all of you Miss Ashlee Wilson, who is an artist, a musician, an author, French radio announcer, and teacher from Ville Platte. Today, she will be presenting In Veneration of Life Everlasting, Cultural Preservations of Vénération. Thank you so much for being with us, Ashlee.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you to the Bayou Culture Collaborative. Thank you, Maida and Rachel and Gary and Sarah. Thank you to all the people who registered. Thank you for everybody that's here. I'm very excited to share this with you all, and I hope you can hear me well. Yeah. I'm here at the Academy of the Sacred Heart in Grand Coteau, Louisiana, where I'm a teacher. I'm a French teacher, and I want to thank them also because they have provided me some time to present to y'all today. But I'm so excited to present to you In Veneration of Life Everlasting, my own experience with the cultural preservation of Vénéraire, which is Pseudonephalium obtusifolium. And here it is. So my story starts basically in around 2011 when I smelled a maple syrup-like smell in my back pasture. And this was an interesting experience for me, to say the least. I kept on going back every day to this certain area of my field to smell this smell that was just full back there, and it was very strongly of maple syrup. And I had smelled other smells out in my prairie before, but this was different than anything else. And I had enough access and familiarity with the other plants that I knew what it wasn't. And this picture here is the exact plant that I found that year in 2011, I believe it was. And I looked it up a little bit. I had babies at the time, and I kind of found maybe it's sweet everlasting, and that it was chewed for fun. So I did that, but then after that season, I couldn't find it anymore in my field. And I've since learned that that's typical of this plant. It won't come up in the same root place. It's spread by the wind. And so I lost it for many years. And so where I live, the prairie where I live is a small pre-colonial prairie in St. Landry Parish, Louisiana, called Prairie des Femmes. It's a historical place. I've lived there for 20 years, and this is approximately where Prairie des Femmes is. It's a very small place, and here is a little bit more detailed map. There's a swamp to the north, Grand Coteau to the west, and Arnaudville to the east. When I moved there, it's not a place that people call Prairie des Femmes necessarily, but the older generation, my neighbors told me it's called Prairie des Femmes. I was the French teacher, so I had interest in knowing why it was called that. And I started anonymously in 2012 a blog about this place and kind of about my experience as a young mother, a woman living in this place. And that's what the blog was about. And through the blog, I did lots of things. But one of the most consistent things that I did was document herbal remedies and documentation of my process with herbal remedies. And just to say, on the blog, and on this presentation, you will see this star often, and it's a Mexican nicho that represents the Mare Stella, Star of the Sea, that was important to the Acadians and many people that came here to Louisiana as part of different diasporas believed in these kind of sea goddesses that protected us. And so this one houses a travel altar that was given to me by my grandmother when I was a little girl, and it's just the perfect place for it. And so it became organically the symbol that I use for the blog. C'est bon? So one of the places where I got a lot of my information, where I've learned a lot of this, I learned a lot of my ethnobotany through the language. So they would talk about people that I knew, my elders, or people on the Tasta Cafe radio program, for example, out of my hometown, Ville Platte on KVPI. They would talk about certain plants, and then I'd say, well, I'm going to go out and find it. And I would use it as prescribed and transcribe all that information. And after a while, I had a lot of access and familiarity with all the plants you see here. But there were certain ones that were harder to find for me. Herba malo, I couldn't find. I found it in the swamp. Worm seed, and then that maple syrup smelling plant. So I looked for years, and finally in July 2022, I found 3 of them in my pasture. And I started tending them and visiting them daily. And this is a time I was going through a really hard time in my life. And so this plant gave me a sense of purpose. It comforted me in a way. The smell of it comforted me. And I was pretty sure that it was what I was looking for because of the smell and also because it was like a stranger in the field, you know. So I was really enjoying my identification process, and I was pretty sure that I had Pseudonephalium obtusifolium, but I'd had no French name for it, and I was confused about the English name because this is a highly used plant. This is a ceremonial plant to the North Americas, to the Americas in general. And so there's a lot of common names for it, and there has been some changes in the Latin names, and there's Cajun French names and Creole names and Native American names. So there was a lot to learn. So a lot of the resources that I looked to, the DLF, Dictionary of Louisiana French, the Vermilionville Healer's Guide, and there was a Bitter Southerner article that I looked up, and they didn't list it, or they either listed it by another name, Pearly Everlasting. So I took that. Okay, maybe it's Pearly Everlasting. In addition, when you talk about rabbit tobacco, people will say it's purple cudweed. So I got really good at distinguishing my cudweeds. Okay. So Pseudonephalium obtusifolium. Previously, it was Nephalium obtusifolium. So some of the old records will have this Latin name. And it's commonly known as a cudweed, an everlasting, a rabbit tobacco. Okay, like all of the common names, we'll talk about those. And those are common for Nephaliums. But when you say rabbit tobacco in Louisiana, people will say it's this one, right? It's purple cudweed, which is this one right here. But that's not what I had. In fact, I had both. I had this purple cudweed in abundance, but I had this one, Vénération, much less. And it was definitely something different. The purple cudweed also doesn't smell. Okay, and then to the left here of the screen, you can see some of the early documentation I was doing in my journals of this. There also, one of the ways that I ID'd it was through the American painted lady butterfly and larva that likes white cudweed. It likes the purple stuff too, but it prefers this one. So, okay, I started carrying it around with me everywhere. I believed in this plant. It made me feel calm. And so I started sharing it with local ethnobotanists, and there was surprise, right? And there was like, some people were excited, and some people were like, there's no way you have that growing in your field. So I was really alerted by that because it mirrored kind of my own experience with this is not something I see on the side of the road or in any field actually around me. So it confirmed that for me. And people, so the experts also told me that it usually just grows in old prairie remnants, which my field was not. My field has been disturbed. So I wasn't a botanist, so I deferred to the experts. But Dr. Alain came to my field in 2023, and he confirmed what I had was Pseudonephalium obtusifolium. So this is just part of my documentation of it. And then I wanted to find that name. What was the name? At this time, I did not know what Vénération was. Okay. So Dr. Ray Brasser was very interested in this. plant because he had been contacted multiple times by people looking for it, but he didn't have it. A lot of the other organizations around native plants and prairie plants didn't have it at this time. So he explained to me the origin of the name, and also he immediately put me in touch with women from down the bayou who had been asking him for it. Okay, and this is one of my early sightings, I guess you could say, from George Washington Cable in 1883 of them talking about life everlasting being sold next to bay and sassafras by Choctaw women in the French Quarter. Okay, that's from old Creole days. I think that's a little out of order, but ça va. So at this time, I carried it everywhere. I used it as a smudge, as smoke, tea, infused balm, oils, tincture, steam, and it's good for skin, lungs, and spirit. There's that painted lady. And here's the differences between the sweet everlasting, the purple cudweed, and the sweet everlasting. I think some of my slides are out of order here, but ça va. I hope y'all can bear with me. So at the top, we have purple cudweed, middle, we have sweet everlasting, our plant, and the bottom purple cudweed. So you can kind of see how they are similar but different, right? So here's another close-up. So this is like during the time where I was still kind of confused about, is it? I had people telling me it is it pseudonephalium or is it purple cudweed? Because purple cudweed's so common. So here's the Vénération on this side, and here's the pot de chat purple cudweed on that side. Here is it more mature, and here is the purple cudweed more mature. So during this time, I was looking about pearly everlasting, purple cudweed, fragrant everlasting, and I came across this article called The Traiteurs Down the Bayou about faith healers from down the bayou by Jonathan Olivier, and this was in Bitter Southerner. And in it, Donnie Verdun, who is a member of the United Home and Nation, talked about plants that they were used to having access to, that they're not in danger of extinction, but there is a question of availability in the region, and that he was saying they're increasingly hard to find. And he says one of these plants is Vénéraire, or pearly everlasting. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's pearly everlasting. Why do all these resources keep on calling it pearly? And he talks about what they used it for and how very few people in the region are growing it. So there was my smoking gun. I had the French name, but there was still this question about what is pearly everlasting? And is that what we have? So I started researching it, because even the article will say it's not native to here, but maybe we traded it. So to me, that was, I didn't know how that could work out. So here is a range map of pearly everlasting. It does not grow in the Southeast, not native here anyway. And also, this is what it looks like. It looks a little different. And also, it does not smell. It is medicinal in the same ways that purple everlasting or fragrant everlasting is medicinal, but it does not smell. And so that was proof enough to me that what I had was not pearly, and probably there was some type of confusion, just like I was confused about what these were. Okay, so here's my purple cudweed. And here's the growing areas of purple cudweed, very common. Pennsylvania cudweed, it was another contender in there. And there's where the Pennsylvania cudweed is growing. There was also Heller's cudweed, and there's where it grows. Here's my Pseudonephalium obtusifolium, and this is where it grows. So you can see it's very common, but less and less in South Louisiana. So while I was doing all of this kind of conjecture back and forth, I decided to look again at the Healer's Garden Guide, this brochure, and it listed 2 cudweeds. Cat's foot, that we call pot de chat, and that is purple cudweed, and also baby's breath, herbe dentale, that this Latin name is also a synonym for the one at the top. So these are synonymous, is what I had to figure out. So I have a question. Are these the same plant? Do they have different common names in Cajun French, or are these different plants? And could herbe dentale, for example, actually be another name for Vénéraire? Okay, we'll see. That's a question I have right now. So speaking of Vénéraire, what is this name? What is the word? Dr. Ray Brasser helped me a lot, and he told me it comes from the word vulnerare, a vulnerare, from the Latin vulnus, wound. It's a plant or a medicine used in the healing of wounds. So the French would have brought this name vulneraire from the old world, and the plant they called this most commonly was kidney vetch. But when they got to the New World, of course, it changed through oral tradition. They saw this plant being used by the indigenous populations of Louisiana, and it was used in a similar ultra healing way. This is an ultra healing plant. Okay, here's some of my documentation of some of the names of it. And here are some of the common names for it. So we have Vénéraire, rabbit chew, fragrant rabbit tobacco, sweet everlasting, life everlasting, fragrant life everlasting, ophel balsam, ladies tobacco, I like that one a lot, fragrant cudweed, owl's crown, balsam weed, chaffweed, featherweed, fuzzy guzzy, golden motherwort, cat's foot. So there's a pot de chat there. Some people might accidentally call it that. Indian posy, life of man, moonshine, none so pretty, poverty weed, rabbit tobacco, white balsam, sweet life everlasting. So these are just some that I've collected. And I'll also say that this plant is very well known to the Gullah people of the Carolina coasts, and a lot of these names come from them. They're very knowledgeable about it, as are many of the North American tribes. This is a ceremonial plant. It's part of their smoking blends and different things. I've also started to look up names, the native names. So the Choctaw name, the Tunica name, the Chickasaw name for it. And what's interesting is the Choctaw name, I believe it's Bashuchak, but I don't want to mispronounce. Also, I was familiar with that one. Let me go up. I was familiar with this one because it also it also I was familiar with it because I'd already seen it in reference to sumac, and the dye made from sumac is called this also. And so via Dr. Jeffrey Derensberg, he told me that there were a few different plants that were referred to as that. So I have some ideas about why that could be. It may have to do with a smoking blend. So in the Dictionary of Louisiana French, I went to it, and it also talks about vénéraire or vulnéraire, and it lists it as pearly everlasting. Talks about a Mr. Tronhon who used it for colds. And this is some of my research on it when I was still thinking it might have been pearly everlasting. So Dr. Ray Brasser let me know that there was like a lot of people in search for it. So like that gave me a lot of purpose at a time where I was looking for purpose. And even the word life everlasting really was just like a mantra to me in this very hard time of my life where this plant really supported me, and I had a communication with this plant. And the more I communicated with it, the more it grew. The first year I found 3. The next season I had 200. And then last year I had 700 in my field. I'm not planting any of them. They're planting themselves. In fact, anything I plant of it will not come up very well. It's very strange, but it plants itself profusely, and I celebrate every one. So it was my mission to give it back to the people that were looking for it. I gave it to members of the Homa, the Attakapaw Ishak, and the Pointe-au-Chien tribes, and many others. One of the ladies that I gave it to, her name was Miss Marlene Toops. And Miss Marlene, I believe you're here right now. And I hope it's okay that I'm sharing a couple of your slides, because Miss Marlene was looking for this plant. And Dr. Ray Brasser put her in touch with me, and she does a wonderful, very informative presentation called Medicinal Herbs, etc., Les Vieux Temps in Vacherie Guines, Louisiana, where she goes through, might be like 40 or 50 different plants and remedies that they used in her childhood. Very, very cool presentation. But at the end of her presentation, she brings up this lost plant. Oh, and when I saw this, I said, wow, okay. She talks about what it was used for, that they added Vic Salve to it as a hot tea, which you do hear about, and none has been found in the area in many years. And she's asking the right questions, right? Is it rabbit tobacco? Is it life everlasting? And then she goes into her research about life everlasting, about the maple syrupy smell, about lung and congestion, and how it was hung to dry. So I met Miss Marlene at the French tent at Festivals Acadiens and Creole in 2023, and I brought her a big bag of Vénération, and she said, "You found it." So here's the range. So it made me question, right? Is it more rare south of here? Because it was in my experience, this is not a common plant. This is not like it's not like another rabbit tobacco, or it's not like a goldenrod or anything else that you find normally in the prairie. It's kind of rare. So here it is across the United States, pretty common, but as you get closer to South Louisiana, you can see this doesn't mean that it's not there, but people are not marking it. This is from the iNaturalist website, and let's go in a little further. So you can see, I hate to say it, but south of I-10, it's much more rare, being rarely located. And here's mine in St. Landry Parish. There she is. Boop. Okay. And then this one is from wildflowersearch.org. And so you're seeing kind of the same thing. All right. And a little bit closer there. And so here is my field. And oh, this is the patch that I have in my field. Oops, excusez-moi. And this is just some documentation of how I dry it, or how it dries a little bit, and just some pictures of when I was doing documentation of it. Okay. All right. Here's it drying on my porch at home. And that was a big harvest. And I probably have maybe double that. I've given most of everything that I have away. So I was lucky to be able to present about this, or showcase it at the Cabildo, at the Botanica exhibit with Rachel Brunlin and Monique Verdun. Merci beaucoup to them, because that was the first time I was able to show any of it, and at the State Museum. So that was a huge honor. And I was also able to push the research a little bit more. This is when I found the Choctaw word for this, and also was able to take samples from my own field of elder, smilax, sumac, and then the Vénération. Smilax is also known as contact. So those four are all known as this word in certain contexts. So that's some of the research, right? Some of my questioning. And there's me at Botanica, and also Prairie Stories at the Acadiana Center of the Arts in Lafayette 2025. I was able to do some presenting about the Vénération and present the story. And here's some other shots from Prairie Stories. So here it finally is some of my compiled research about the uses and other places where I've seen it mentioned, right? So there's a lot of conjecture about it, a lot of oral, like people will say the name of it, but you'll see. So here I have from a thesis from 1931 out of Lafayette Parish, they call it La Vénération, which if you speak Louisiana French, you know that that could be a common, if you say vénéraire, 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 if you're not exactly sure what you're hearing, it could sound like Eravine, La Vénéraire. But then, of course, and they give the old Latin name. Here is from Choctaw Medicine, Mike Boucher. They call it Life Everlasting. The whites call it Life Everlasting, but it's known as the Choctaw word here, and it's drunk for fever. It'll break a fever, and it's used as a tobacco substitute. This is from the Charles Bienvenu thesis that I've worked with for years, and they talk about using it as a cataplasm, as a plaster. Here it is, talked about in Jeff Davis Parish, from Miss Anna Teresa Daig, Vénération for fever, for cold. This is also from a study called Code Convergent Boring in Louisiana French by Miss Becky Brown. She mentions it as a medicinal vine, and she mentions it because it has a different name from the French name. Okay, just another one from another Center for Louisiana Studies archival catalog, an interview they did talking about Vénération for Lafayette, for fever. And then another citing of it and the Choctaw information about it from this article. Okay, so then I did a bunch of compiling for the uses of Life Everlasting through the Native Ethnobotany database. And so it was used as a sedative, as a pain reliever, muscle cramps, sweat baths, cough syrup, sore throat, and it was smoked for asthma. Again, lung pain, cold, inhalant, perfume, taken for vomiting, meaning like I think it makes you feel better after you might throw up. Miscellaneous diseases, you can make a wash of it. Oh, how about this one? Psychological aid, people who wanted to run away. Sedative, used as a wash for old people unable to sleep. Witchcraft medicine, a decoction of the plant used as a wash for persons afflicted by ghosts. Okay, it was used as a fever breaker for the kashada or kasadi, given to children with fevers. They'd bathe them in it. You would dry the leaves and use the steam. I've heard that these were used in like hot houses, steam houses. This is one of the herbs used. Oh, a smudge. You smudge it in the premises after a person has passed away. So it's more for the people that are left than the person that has gone, is what I understand. And there's a connection with this plant between the other side, right? Life everlasting. And the time that it becomes good is the time usually after the first little frost, when the plant is completely dead. That is when it is most fragrant, and that is when it is at its most power, right? And there's this idea of it being immortal. As you can see it here, it's still perfectly in flower, right? And I've had bouquets of this flower on my porch for months that are dead, that will open during the day and close at night, and open during the day and close at night. And I've observed it for weeks and weeks on end. So there's a connection also, in Cajun culture, we believe about the time of year, November 1st, La Toussaint, and that is also the time that this plant becomes most powerful, and it's very white in the field. So there's definitely a funerary aspect to it, and it's seriously ceremonial, and I felt that from the moment that I started dealing with it, even before I knew what it was. All right, let's see. Oh, dried leaves are steamed as an inhalant for foolishness. I think I've used that multiple times for that. And then it can revive people who have fainted. All right. It can be used to bring back loss of mind. It can revive an unconscious patient, coughing, consumption, chills, asthma, and then leaves chewed for fun like candy. Okay, and that's thanks to the Native American Ethnobotany database. And finally, I'll say I came across this quote from some Cheyenne plant medicines, And it says almost every woman possesses certain plants used as medicine, which are particularly her own and the secrets of which she alone knows. And this was about the Cheyenne women, how they all specialized, right, in a different plant. And I really do feel like this plant had followed me kind of like a raccoon in the prairie. It knew where to find food. It knew that there was somebody that was listening, that would protect it, that would not cut it. And it really has become one of my best friends, one of my best allies, helped me through a terrible time in my life, and still is providing me so much joy. And it brings me so much joy to share it with you all today. And I want to say thank you to the Bayou Culture Collaborative, to Dr. Bill Fontenot, Dr. Ray Brasser, Larry Allen, Kobe Lejeune, Miss Marlene Toops, Rachel Doherty, Debbie Clifton, Dr. Jeffrey Derensberg, Jake Falk, Monique Verdant, Rachel Brunlin, Amanda Lafleur, and Shom Desgupta. Merci beaucoup for all of y'all's help and guidance figuring out this thing. And for more information, you can find me in these places. There's my email. This is a link to my blog spot, my Instagram. And then at the bottom, there's the Native American ethnobotany website, and then also the Vermilionville Healers Garden brochure. C'est bon?
C'est bien bon.
Okay.
Ashley, thank you so very much for presenting today. I really did enjoy everything that you shared with us. And particularly, I may need to go visit you and get some of these leaves because I sometimes have bouts of foolishness, and I also would like to bring back the loss of my mind because I feel as though that's something that we all might need. We need Ashley, we need you to grow a lot more of these plants, please.
That's why I'm giving it. I'm giving it out. So I got you. I got y'all. Anybody? I got y'all.
We
Free of
appreciate
charge.
that.
Free of
I
charge.
I also love that in the installation that you did in one of the museums, you had these things in like a 1980s caboodle, which that was not lost on me. I appreciated that as well. That was very well done. Uh,
Thank you. It's called Cajun Girl Caboodle.
I think that's very, very thoughtful. Well, as you were doing this presentation, one of the things that came to mind was the traiteuse. And I'm working on my French, and so please correct me. But a female that was a healer would be a traiteuse. Is that right?
Traiteuse.
Traiteuse. Thank you, traiteuse. And we're gonna get to some questions for you, but do you consider yourself now, like, would you consider yourself, because I want to kind of say I consider you to be a type of healer just from listening to what you're doing and how you speak of these plants and how you take care of them and how you use them. Would you ever consider yourself to have that
Well,
title?
I think we all are capable of that. And I
Mm,
think it's just what you put your energy into. And of course, I'm somebody that's so fortunate that I was able to learn my indigenous, my native, I mean, my historic, or how do you, my heritage language.
yeah.
And because I learned that heritage language, a lot of my elders knew that I was able to accept a lot of information. And so I've been the recipient of a lot of um, sacred information.
Yeah.
And that is the role of, us younger generation. I mean, I'm a certain age now, I'm 45, but I've been speaking Cajun French since I was 18, 19. And
Mm,
so I'm able to kind of straddle the generations. And so, yes, I've inherited and I carry a lot of this for my people and for my generation. And a lot of this, Jonathan and everybody else, I want to tell you this, is not translated into English. We did
mm,
not need a lot of this information in English. Even the people that I'm from, would rather me go to a clean hospital than to
sure.
rely on the old knowledge. But I'm somebody that respects the old knowledge and the old ways, and I have hazarded myself to all of it. I've tried a lot, and I've experimented on myself extensively. I trust these old this indigenous information, because we
Mm.
must remember, like Cajun French, and we learned about these plants from the indigenous that were here. And this plant, especially that I'm talking about today, was very important to them. So yeah, I am somebody that knows, I know the plants and I know a lot of the information, and I'm here to share it.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Hmm.
Gary, you had a question?
Hmm. I wanted to give you a T-Fair salute. Good job.
Let's see.
As a
Here you go.
biologist,
Right
yeah,
back
do it.
at you, Gary.
Yeah,
Right back at you.
yeah. As a biologist, though, I am curious about seed dispersal. And you kind of said that you're purposely not planting. And I was wondering
Well,
if do the seeds move on the wind, or will they kind of stick in your socks, or no?
the
And
seeds move in the wind. I've noticed they follow my paths. So when I pick, I shake. So I'm helping it. And
yeah.
I've seen the way that I burn the prairie. I think burning has to do with it. I think the way we manage the prairie, Miss Marilyn says uh, the way we manage our land, we have not. I've seen the biodiversity come back on this land. My land was a potato field that was bleached when we moved there. There was crows and buzzards, and ever since we've quit the way we managed it, the way we planted thousands of native trees. We let things kind of go, and around us is a desert. It's just like agriculture and cow fields and mow, 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 and that's the culture we live in. So I've tried to plant it. I've tried to sow it, but it's a very, I want to say, I believe in this strain. I believe in the biodiversity of whatever I have in my field, that it survived. And my field is nothing special. It's dry, it's poor dirt. And this plant likes that. And I don't know why. I do believe I had some type of communication with it. I told it when I first found it, you grow and I'll let you grow. Nobody will cut you. And I've celebrated everyone, and they really they rise to the occasion. This is an intelligent plant. That's all I can tell you. And I think our indigenous ancestors knew that. And one of my roles, like in the research that I do with Prairie de Femme, is kind of saving some of this information and gleaning through the good stuff and presenting it to the public. And it's something I take seriously, because I'm helping important information survive. And like I said, a lot of it was not translated as much into English.
Mm.
So
Sarah, yep. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Thanks, Ashlee.
No, c'est bon.
We have
Thank
a
you for that.
question in the comments. Want to make sure we get to from Lauren. And she asks, can you tell us what times of the year to look for this plant? It sounds like it flowers in late summer, early fall, but when should we watch for it coming up?
Correct. So purple cudweed will flower in May. This one is flowering. You'll see the buds in late July, August, and then by November 1st, December, it is in full flower, and it's very white, and you're able to see it. And you have to differentiate between the white tops of the bone set and other plants that can look like other asters that look like this. So you'll get good at that, but it's mostly in October, November where you should look for it. And north of here, west of here in the piney woods, it will grow on the side of the highway. And so it's pretty common. It's just south, it's just getting less and less common in my experience and what I've been told.
One of
Merci,
the
Lauren.
things One of the things that when you showed the map of where it was growing in Louisiana, one of the things that stood out to me was that it was not growing along the river or in the Delta area. And so I wonder if its proximity to or low-lying areas is an issue, and that maybe it's not so prevalent in the southern part of the state anymore because of subsidence and land loss issues and whatnot, that it can only be found north of I-10.
I
What do
think
you think?
I think yes. I
Yeah.
think, okay, I've wondered, is it poison? Is it mowing? Is it agriculture? Is it habitat loss? Is the plant just sensitive, like some spiritual sensitivity or something? I don't
Mm.
know. Is it salt water, like what you're saying, subsidence, saltwater intrusion in some places? Is it the moisture? Is it something else? So, yeah, I think you're right because it will not. Oh, I'll tell you this. We planted an acre of the coton jaune, Acadiana brown cotton,
Mm-hmm.
and we did rose, and that went fallow and overgrew. And on the tops of the rose is where my Vénération will choose to grow, and in the hollows,
Valleys.
it will not grow.
Hmm.
Also, it will grow on the edge of my prairie where the woods start, in kind of in the shadows of the woods, but not even 5 feet in.
Mm.
It doesn't like the shade in there and it doesn't like the wet.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm.
I think you're exactly right. I think it has to do something with the moisture because a lot of the people that are familiar with it, like in Mississippi or Texas or other places, they're like, if it was poison, I mean, none of us would have it.
Right, 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 right. Um, all right. That's it. We hope that you guys will stick around with us for more time with some questions for Ashlee after we finish the formal part of our discussion today. But we'd like to ask you this question, Ashlee. What's a strategy that we can use to reclaim human connection? That's our theme for this year. And what are some things that you can share with us about that?
Well, I think we talked about how I don't know if I'm the best person to ask this because I'm a natural recluse, and but I do have the want to share and to connect with people, obviously. And you know, this is not a question about social media, but one of the ways that I do it and invite people into this place that I found called Prairie des Femmes, which is a real place. I want everybody to know it's a real historical place that's on maps and records from the colonial period and probably before. It's an indigenous place where I live. And I've done research on that place, right? But I've also created kind of a liminal um, version of it through the blog that I invite people in to my world through that, and then through the Instagram account. But through that, I've also done invited people to my house. We've run Mardi Gras, Prairie Farm Mardi Gras, which is real, rites of spring. And so, all the spring ephemerals are out at that time. We're picking flowers in the ditch. We're baptizing babies. And I show them things. I've also done some nature walks uh, at Atelier de Nature, for example, in Cecilia with the Bellangers. And I've invited people into my home, for like the Mardi Gras and different things. And I've done certain. So I think using your own gifts and like your own. I always say like all I'm doing is just giving, just using the gifts that God gave me, and using literally my senses to experience the world. And that's how I found this plant. And then to share it with people and to go and meet people like Miss Marlene, or to go meet with Dr. Brasser. Bonjour, Dr. Brasser. I saw him in there. And to give and to connect with these people that had been looking for this plant. I mean, that was the most fulfilling thing. And it came to me in a time of my life where I had no fulfillment and life did not seem everlasting, if you know what I mean. But this plant reminded me consistently that if you put good energy out and you share it without expecting anything back, that good things will happen. And this plant has continued to nurture me. So I think it's different for everybody. It's about just using your own gifts and your own strengths and your senses to develop your gifts and then to share them in the ways that you can, right? Not to overextend yourself. But for me, it was doing things like running Mardi Gras, doing herb talks, and just like putting myself out there, even times where I was not feeling like it, to go and give this plant to people who had shown need for it. And that has, reciprocated. So I
Hmm.
hope that is an okay answer and I hope that
Of
helpful.
course, of
All
course.
right.
And one thing I don't want our audience to lose in the whole idea of Plate de Femme, right? And forgive me if again, I'm working on my French, but it's
Mais qui
like
bien dit.
a prairie of the ladies, right? The
Yeah,
ladies' prairie.
yeah,
And it's beautiful that
yeah,
you have happened upon that place
yeah.
and then been able, and even historically, it just brings up questions in my mind. Like, is this the first time that this happens here? Is this the first time that this, like
Well,
somebody discovers
right.
or somebody and listen, I am on the same in the same belief as you are. Is it somebody that was listening to the land that then this plant said, "Oh, here she is. Here she is again." Like, yeah, we remember we've been in this place before,
Yeah,
and then it presents itself to you.
I
I think
do.
that
Yeah.
is a beautiful part of your whole story. That's
Thank
amazing to
you.
me.
Yes, thank you. That is something that could be. And what I feel is that this plant is a physical manifestation
Yeah.
of the openness that I've had, just the listening, the observing the moon, observing all the plants in all of their seasons. Of course, I'm gonna zoom in on the stranger in the field, or I'm so used to the smells, the clovers at this time, and the honey smell of the monglier in this time, and so when I caught that maple syrup smell, I mean, I love dessert, and so I was extremely interested in what was producing this smell. And I mean, it still is very sensual for me. It's
Mm,
like all about my senses. And I reach for this medicine every day, every
mm,
day. And I believe in it so much. And I believed in the way it helped me so much that I really want other people to use it. And I don't want to capitalize on it because I believe there is belief in my culture against that.
mm.
And I want to strongly say that I don't believe in capitalizing off of this information. I believe that I was sent to as somebody that can, you know, understand it, and it knew, just
Sure.
in the same way that my elders come to me and will pass me this or that information because they know that I have a mind for it and I have the capacity for it. So I'm just lucky in that way. And I do believe that the Prairie de Femme has a memory, and the memory is in the ground, it's in the plants. And if we let it, right, if we don't hold it back and mow it and fence it in and poison it and all that, that it will come back. And I promise you, the women that Prairie de Femme that were in Prairie de Femme, the women that were found there, that it was named after, whoever they may have been, I have my ideas of who they were growing this plant.
Hmm.
100%. They
Hmm.
were using this plant ceremonially. And there are many other plants there that I would have thought everything's going out there, but it's not. And this
Hmm.
one is a real proof for me that something was going on out there, and there are still remnants of it for those of us that are able to access it.
Yep. I am waiting for the book to come out, Ashley. So I'm just putting it out there that when you're ready to give that book to us, I'm here to read it. And I don't know if I hope you're working on something or thinking about something because this would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. And thank you for sharing all that. Again, everybody, please stick around. In just a few minutes, we'll have our informal discussion where we can talk to Ashley a little bit more. What I'd like to do is share with all of you the working group schedules. So we've got French language preservation, protecting collections, culture and coastal planning, and preparing receiving communities. So if you're interested in any of those topics, the information is there of when they meet. Feel free to email us or check in with us on Facebook to find more information about how you can participate in those groups if that's something of interest to you. We're also very excited to have our next gathering on March 20th It's going to be with Miss Tina Bingham and it's Neighborhood Coteries. So we look forward to having her with us. And we hope that you'll join us then. There's also a Louisiana Lit program here at the Bayou Terrebonne Waterlife Museum that we'd like to share with you. We will be discussing the book Temple of the Sun by Charles Dean Domingue. So please, if you're available and in the neighborhood, we'd love to see you for that on March 26th. So thank you again, everyone, for being with us. That concludes the formal part of our discussion today, but we hope that you'll stick around for the next 30 minutes so we can continue this conversation with Ashlee.